Back when she first heard that she had two sisters she hadn't known about, she'd done some cursing and yelling about the injustice of it all. 24 years ago, their mother had died suddenly. She'd left behind a mess of bills, a web of lies, and 3 little girls. The social workers, and ultimately the folks at the private adoption agency, ended up separating her and her sisters. Each had grown up never knowing about their past or their siblings, only taking a DNA test on a whim, and the shock of learning that her parents hadn't actually been her parents had led to this moment. Well, that, and a driving need to discover her past. Now, after a flurry of emails and phone calls, the 3 of them had decided to live together for 1 year on the top floor of Shannon's recently purchased building on the edge of downtown Bridgeport, Ohio. Amazingly, though they were essentially strangers, they'd all agreed to give up pretty much everything in order to give their relationship and their future together a chance. Their leaps of faith hadn't come easy. She had come from a small town in West Virginia. Her sisters Tracy and Kimber were arriving from Cleveland and New York City, respectively. Back in Cleveland, Tracy had been a big city cop. Kimber had lived a fancy life as a runway and print model in the middle of Manhattan. They'd both given up a lot in order to move to southern Ohio, and to help Shannon achieve her long-time dream of owning a ballroom dance studio. Their sacrifices were humbling. Some would even say too generous. However, Shannon didn't think any of them had an ounce of regret. It seemed a common mother combined with a need to know more about their past could overrule most any other obstacle. Now, though she'd been the instigator, Shannon was feeling at a distinct disadvantage. Kimber had flown to Cleveland, spent 2 days helping Tracy get packed, and now was riding shotgun during their short trip from Cleveland to Bridgeport. While Shannon had been busy trying to make the sprawling loft into a home, they'd had almost 2 days of bonding and catching up. What if they'd already formed a bond that was going to be hard for Shannon to penetrate? She could see that happening. Both Tracy and Kimber were also from big cities, and with demanding jobs. Shannon, on the other hand, was simply a small-town dance instructor. Bridgeport, Ohio, was double the size of her hometown of Spartan, West Virginia. What if they thought she was too country? What if they were both used to fancy things and exciting lives, while a trip to the supercenter was sometimes the highlight of Shannon's day? As question after question rattled through her brain, she became even more agitated. Frustrated with the direction of her thoughts, Shannon turned away from the window and looked hard at their living room. It currently consisted of a small, ancient fireplace that needed a good cleaning, a lumpy sofa, a rickety side table, and a lamp. Saying the space looked sparse was putting it mildly. The open living room was connected to a galley-style kitchen that sported an oven and refrigerator almost as old as Kimber. On the other side was a bathroom that was bigger than any Shannon had ever had, but now seemed woefully small for 3 women to share. The only good thing about their third-floor loft was that there were 3 bedrooms. They were small and didn't even have closets, but they did give each of them a small amount of privacy. When she'd told the other girls about it all, Shannon had been so excited. But now, she was afraid that they'd see it for what it was, a desperate small-town girl's attempt to make a vague dream into a home. Even though she'd since tried to tone down their expectations, there was a good chance they'd be disappointed. Why, Kimber especially was probably used to fancy New York apartments and designer furniture. Just as another wave of doubt crashed through her, a gleaming white Subaru Outback pulled into the parking lot on the side of the studio, accompanied by 2 sharp honks. Feeling like her heart was in her throat, Shannon rushed down the stairs and opened the front door just as both women stepped out. And there were her sisters, Tracy and Kimber. Tracy, with her long brown hair clasped in a low ponytail and a far more athletic build than her own. Kimber, with her gorgeous cappuccino skin.